Hello Cancer, Cancer Rising, and Cancer Moon people. This is your monthly astrological horoscope for December 2016. And remember, this talks about big, sweeping changes that go on a seasonal basis. That's what these monthly astrology horoscopes are for. If you're looking for smaller aspects, more that affect, say, a few days, or maybe even a week or two at a time, I highly recommend checking out my weekly horoscopes as well. The first half of each horoscope is astrology exclusively, so that may be something you'd like there. And of course, if you'd ever like to get a personal reading with me, you can always go to my website, integrativemysticism.com. So, this month, Cancer, is one of those months where a lot of planetary activity is concentrated into one sign, and a lot of that is all about Capricorn, which is your 7th house, your partnership zone, your one-on-one relationships, all of the tightest relationships that you have. Yes, this definitely could indicate love and romance for boyfriend and girlfriend, spouses, and things like that, but also your best friendships, your closest relationships with your closest family members, and of course business partnerships as well. And that's a big theme this month. That's a big, big theme. In fact, at the beginning of the month, we've got Mercury moving into this area, and it's going to be focusing on speeding up developments in this area for you. You know, speeding things along in terms of the evolution or the growth of a relationship. And the nice thing about Mercury going in here, especially in the first 3 weeks of the month, is that this is going to sort of be happening on a more natural and organic way, not necessarily something that has to be forced or contrived, because with Mercury, wherever it goes, it's like giving it a shot of caffeine, I always say that. And with Mercury in here, if you've been trying to maybe finalize some paperwork in a business partnership, or you are trying to maybe make a dating scenario more official, or to even, open up deeper levels of communications with a romantic partner, this is definitely going to be the month for you. Now yes, I am aware that Mercury is going retrograde after the 19th, and we'll talk about that, but until then, pay attention to where it is a great chance to finally start having the one-on-one dialogues away from the crowds and more serious subject matter, mutually pleasurable between you and your intended. Okay, that's what's really important. That's the important message here. On the 7th of the month, we do have Venus moving into Aquarius, which is your 8th house of intimacy and pleasure and all of that fun physical stuff that we can have in a romantic relationship. And with Venus here, all the way through the duration of the month, it's going to be very, very romantic for a lot of you. If you've been feeling like it's time to be maybe pampering your partner, or have a chance to get pampered by your partner, but also to have more of those romantic getaways. Honeymoon seasons kind of come and go in love and romance. They start off in the very beginning. Almost every relationship has its honeymoon phase, but just because it ends doesn't mean we don't have another one again, and it looks like a lot of you Cancer people are going to be enjoying that. This is also a wonderful time for those of you who have been feeling maybe a bit disconnected intimately to reconnect intimately with a partner, but also to start blending other areas of our life together. Because the 8th house also talks about shared resources, it's also a great time for us to consider more merging opportunities with a partner. And for those of you who are thinking about this more in a business or a financial sense, Venus in the 8th house also makes it a lot easier to acquire extra money that it comes from outside the hourly or salary income area. Whether this is a personal business opportunity, this can actually talk a lot about your self-employment income or your side income, or whether or not you're trying to actually drum up money coming through sales, through commissions, through tips, things along those lines. Again, from the 7th of the month going all the way up until possibly, even into early January is going to be quite lucrative here as well. And so we have a really nice balance of, I guess, two of the big questions that we usually get asked as astrologers about what's going to happen next, and it looks like a very balanced, again, beginning for a lot of you. Now on the 13th, we do have a full moon in Gemini. It's in your 12th house. This is the area that people might call your privacy zone, the zone of your past, what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on in the shadows. And this may actually have to do with the shadow, whether you're doing like the shadow, considering the shadow self, you know, when you're thinking more like a youngin sort of way, or you're talking about shadow work in terms of clearing and letting go of old issues, this is definitely what that moon is all about. And with a full moon in the 12th house, sometimes we can refer to this as sort of like a time where there could be a lot of high emotional sensitivities, and I highly recommend that people, anyway, don't let yourself get hijacked by astrological energies. One of the things that breaks my heart the most is seeing like the big forums on Facebook and things like that about people, you know, going, oh, the energies. It's like, no, learn to ground it. Because this full moon is all about getting you geared up to actually have a large release. This full moon could actually talk about a big opportunity for closure in a lot of ways, especially if you have been dealing with anything from your past that may still be impacting your behavior or your decisions in the present. And this adventure is going to go basically from the 13th until about the 27th. And we are entering, of course, the holiday season, and so sometimes dealing with family and things like that can bring up the past in a lot of ways, but it's also about paving a clean slate for us and whoever else may be involved. So, you know, I would definitely encourage more readiness and maybe even excitement for this, not apprehension. On the 19th of the month, we've got two big things going on. We've got Mars, the planet of action and energy and passion and conviction, moving into your 9th house of higher education, spiritual education, academia, scholarship, as well as government and legal proceedings. And with Mars here, it's a great time for those of you who are looking to maybe even merge the energies or merge the concepts of health, mind, body, and spirit all at the same time. You know, and from, you know, about the 19th going well into January, you could actually see some really good results as far as mixing these things together. Maybe it's time to consider taking a course, or maybe going through a therapeutic regimen with, you know, acupuncture, or maybe, you know, martial arts of any kind. This is a wonderful opportunity to start seeing some fast results from any kind of therapy you might be going through there. With Mars in the 9th house, it's also an excellent time to start stretching a little bit more of that academic muscle in a more competitive way, if you're looking to actually join more competitive school programs, or maybe get into a more competitive school, or I guess, you know, anything that would require you to sort of apply and test yourself in. You know, Mars does overcome a lot of obstacles there. If you're in a situation where where 200 people are trying to get into a place where there's room for 20, this is a lot easier for you to do. This is also, again, wonderful for those of you that are thinking about initiating or even ending some kind of outstanding issue you may be having with, a legal situation, whether it's financial, whether it's personal, whether it's civil, whatever is going on there. Mars is there to defend you during this time. And so if you need to actually kind of, push this forward or make some kind of new demand or even initiate, better to do it before Mercury goes retrograde or after. And I would highly recommend maybe doing more studying during this time, because Mercury turns retrograde on the same day. But I do think that you may be noticing a good turnaround. Maybe this Mercury retrograde is working to your advantage there. And again, looking at this, Mercury will be retrograde on the same day. On the 19th, it turns retrograde, where it will be retrograde for about 3 weeks, going up into the second week of January. But again, Mercury retrograde is going in your 7th house. And remember, Mercury retrograde, it doesn't crash the chart wherever it goes. It only affects that house. And that's a very important thing to remember with astrology, because sometimes it's hard to learn that about astrology depending on what you're watching and who you're reading. And with Mercury retrograde in the partnership sector, this is kind of a very interesting twist to put on some of the energies that have to do with trust and have a lot to do with paying attention to where too much of the past may be wrongfully influencing the present. Now this could be issues coming up in a romantic situation or even with a friend or a partner. Sometimes we bring trust issues into a new situation based on our past. Sometimes we are, accidentally, kind of getting a hard time because of what somebody else did when we weren't around. And with Mercury retrograde in the 7th house, it's talking about clearing and repairing I guess you could say old damage done. This whole month has a huge air of the need for a readiness and a desire for closure, not to be stuck. And the nice thing about this Mercury retrograde, though, in the 7th house is that this can be a good opportunity for giving something another try in a partnership scenario. Okay, maybe taking that through a hypothetical test drive, taking that through a hypothetical discussion with an old crush, an old partner, or an old prospective business prospect. This could, again, not necessarily be romantic. This could be a VIP client or something like that. And what we're doing is we're getting a second chance, or maybe the universe is telling us to give somebody a second chance. And if we didn't give them a chance in the first place and they deserved it, they might show up as well. On the 21st of the month, we do have the Sun moving into Capricorn, into that 7th house of partnerships. Again, huge focus on the partnerships for you guys. And this is talking about not only healing, but also bonding, getting more out of the time that we spend with our closest people. And again, with that Mercury retrograde, there could also be a need to reconnect with a former best friend, an old BFF. Somebody who, for all intents and purposes, in spite of what could have happened with them, still exists in your heart or in your mind somewhere. And with the Sun moving in there, a lot of you Cancer people will have a chance to heal and repair that relationship. And if you feel like maybe you're drifting apart from a best friend, or you feel like there's a big drift in your tightest social circles, the Sun is basically kind of intervene in this way and be like, no, absolutely not. We are not letting anyone, pull apart. And a big part of that is also coming on the 29th, where a new moon in this area is basically going to create a new beginning, or a new bond, or a new era for all involved. And a lot of that, again, is starting to talk about where we need to have that perfect, clean slate. Are we available to have that with the people that we want to have it with? Finally, we also have Uranus turning direct on the 29th. It's in your 10th house of career. And when Uranus is retrograde, as it has been for the last few months, almost half a year, believe it or not, Uranus retrograde can tend to make it feel a bit sluggish wherever, life, whatever part of life it's in. In this case, it's in your 10th house of career. Because Uranus, when it's direct, it brings the wake-up calls, the interventions, the synchronicities, the coincidences, and all the external prompts that we usually get to kind of make our moves, make our messages. But when Uranus goes retrograde, the quality and quantity starts to drop almost, 90%. And so we're kind of left to our own devices. And so it's subjective whether or not this has been good or bad to you. Some people are fine, they don't care. But some people are kind of like, no, I like to, to kind of have that parlay with the universe. And what's happening is that when Uranus goes direct, everyone does benefit, again, from that extra external incentive, external intervention. So be prepared for a little bit more upheavals, but also the benefit of more random chance and random opportunities to suddenly bolster and boost your career prowess, especially at the end of this year, but most certainly January through March of next year. So kind of a big push in a lot of great ways for the Cancer people. So that is your forecast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And of course, if you'd like to get a session, you can always follow the links below, or go to integratedmysticism.com.